We'll be at 18,000 feet here in a second.
It's the depth Bud Brigman went to in the abyss.
I'm doing it for real.
At the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, there's a place that barely feels part of the normal world. A place with no sunlight, extremely cold, and with pressure so strong it can crush steel like a tin can. This is the Mariana Trench, the deepest part of the ocean on Earth. It is located in the western part of the Pacific Ocean, near the area between Japan and the Philippines. Because of its extreme depth, even the highest mountain in the world, Mount Everest, would still be submerged, brother. According to studies by National Geographic and the NOAA, or the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration of America, if you put Mount Everest at its very bottom, the depth of its deepest part, called the Challenger Deep, reaches almost 7 miles. For a very long time, people thought that nothing could live in this place because it's like a dark and cold pit that no living thing could possibly inhabit. But as technology improved and scientists studied deeper, they gradually discovered that the old belief was wrong. Despite the intense darkness and pressure, there are still unique organisms that live in the deep depths. There are fish, tiny creatures, and bacteria that can survive even though the conditions are almost impossible. What's even more surprising is that they don't rely on sunlight to survive. Instead, they use chemicals from beneath the earth to get energy. It's like their own ecosystem, separate from the world we're used to on the surface. But as more discoveries are made about the Mariana Trench, more major countries are becoming interested in it. It's not just a deep part of the ocean. It is gradually becoming an important part of the global competition in science, technology, resources, and military strategy. According to analysts and maritime experts, many countries now want to study the depths of the sea because it may contain valuable minerals, which are needed for modern technology. This includes materials used in batteries, electronics, and other advanced technology. Because of this, the interest of countries capable of conducting deep-sea exploration is increasing. At present, different countries are already using special robots, research submarines, and high-tech vessels to explore the deepest parts of the ocean. This is not easy to do because the place is very dangerous. The pressure at the bottom is extremely hazardous. To put it simply, it's like having an immense weight dropped on you while you're underwater. And even thick steel can be destroyed if it's not strong enough. But how exactly was the Mariana Trench formed? But before we start the discussion, I'd like to ask you for a like and please subscribe to our channel. This is a huge help for us content creators. So let's get started. To help you understand, imagine the surface of the Earth as a huge puzzle made up of very large pieces of rock. These rocks are called tectonic plates, and these plates move very slowly over millions of years. Now, near the Mariana Trench, there are two huge plates pushing against each other. One of them is the Pacific Plate. Because it is heavier and older, it slowly sinks beneath another plate. This process is called subduction. As one plate continues to sink beneath the other, a very deep trench forms on the ocean floor. And that is exactly how the Mariana Trench was formed. It's like two giant pieces of rock slowly colliding over millions of years. It doesn't happen suddenly. It's a slow process, but the effect on the shape of our planet is tremendous. In 1975, explorers first tried to measure the depth of the trench using only a long rope and heavy equipment from the British ship HMS Challenger. According to historical records, it took a very long time for the rope to reach the very bottom of the sea. At first, many people could not believe the depth they had measured. But as the decades passed, it became clearer that the vastness and depth of the Mariana Trench were indeed true. And as more of its secrets are revealed, it becomes even more important to the world today. Because beneath this extremely dark ocean, some of the most important resources and scientific discoveries for the next generation may be hidden. Even so, in 1960, there were two people who decided to do something that was almost impossible at that time. Their plan? To go down to the very bottom of the Mariana Trench, a place that almost no one had ever seen with their own eyes. They didn't use an ordinary submarine. Its name was Trieste. It was a special vessel made for just one thing: to go down extremely deep under the sea. Inside, it was a small metal cabin that could barely fit 2 people. It was like a small steel ball hanging under a large tank. That's where the Swiss engineer Jackie Piccard and U.S. Navy officer Don Walsh boarded. As they went deeper and deeper into the ocean, the light gradually disappeared. After a few hours, they were surrounded by complete darkness. You couldn't see anything at all. The water was also extremely cold, almost freezing. But their biggest enemy wasn't the darkness or the cold, it was the pressure. Because the deeper you go into the sea, the greater the pressure on your body and your vehicle becomes. In the Mariana Trench, the pressure is so intense that even thick steel can be crushed. To put it simply, imagine a huge mountain pressing down on a small object. That's how strong the pressure is down there. According to NOAA and other ocean researchers, the pressure in the Challenger Deep is more than 1,000 times stronger than the pressure we experience on the surface of the Earth. While the Trieste was descending, there was a sudden loud sound like an explosion that echoed inside the cabin. A part of their viewing window developed a crack due to the extreme pressure. At that depth, what happened was extremely dangerous, because if the steel or glass of the vehicle completely gave way, it wouldn't just be a simple water leak. Because of the extreme pressure, the entire vehicle could be crushed instantly in just a split second. But despite the danger, they still continued to descend. And after almost 5 hours of traveling down into the depths, they reached the very bottom of the Mariana Trench. They were the very first people in history to see with their own eyes the deepest part of the planet. And there, they saw something that shocked the world of science. There is life here. According to reports and historical records, they saw an organism moving at the bottom of the sea. Because of this, the old belief of scientists that it was impossible for anything to live in such a place began to change. Before, many people thought that when the sea is too deep, nothing could survive because of the extreme pressure. But that turned out to be wrong. At the bottom of the Mariana Trench, there are organisms that have adapted to the extreme conditions. There are tiny creatures and bacteria that can survive even though the pressure would almost crush other normal animals. What's even more surprising is that their way of survival is different compared to the creatures on the surface of the Earth. For example, many animals in shallow seas use calcium for their hard bones and shells, but in the extreme depths of the Mariana Trench, it's hard for this kind of body to survive because of the pressure in the water's chemistry. That's why most of the creatures in the deep have soft bodies and unusual appearances. They look like beings from another planet. And because of this, scientists became even more interested in the depths of the ocean. Because if there is life that can survive in this kind of environment here on Earth, it's also possible that there is life in other places in the solar system with extreme conditions. Up to now, there are still many parts of the Mariana Trench that have not been fully studied. According to experts, we know more about the surface of the moon than the very bottom of our own ocean. And as the exploration technology of different countries advances, more and more secrets of the deep are gradually being revealed. Secrets that have been hidden for millions of years beneath the darkest parts of the Earth. Now, as we go deeper into the ocean, the light from the surface gradually disappears. At first, you can still see the blue color of the sea, but as you go deeper, it's like entering a world with no sun and no dawn. This is where life begins to change. In this part of the sea, sunlight can barely reach. That's why the animals here have to find ways to survive. There are animals here whose eyes have grown larger so they can find food even in the darkness. Others have come up with even more unusual ways. They create their own light. This is called bioluminescence. According to studies by marine biologists and National Geographic, many deep-sea creatures have the ability to produce light using chemical reactions inside their bodies. It's like they have a built-in flashlight. But it's not just to look beautiful. They use it to catch food, avoid predators, and find a mate in the extreme darkness of the ocean. Under the ocean, light is a big deal because you can barely see anything. One of the strange creatures here is the hatchet fish. Its body is thin, almost like the blade of a knife, but the most noticeable thing about it is its large eyes that are always looking upward. It does this to see the shadows of animals swimming above it, but it has another unique ability. Under its body, there are small organs that emit blue light. It uses that light to match the color of the water from above. To put it simply, it's like copying the surrounding light so it can't be seen by predators below. It's like invisible mode under the sea. But as we go deeper, the environment becomes harsher. We will reach the part of the ocean that scientists call the midnight zone. Here, there is no sunlight at all. It's permanent darkness. From here, all the way down to the very bottom of the trench, the only light you'll see comes from living creatures themselves. And because normal vision is useless in a place like this, the bodies of the creatures here have also adapted. Some can sense even the slightest movement in the water. They can sense even the slightest movement from other animals right away. It's like their whole body is an extremely sensitive radar. Because food is also scarce here, the creatures have to make the most of every opportunity to eat. One example of this is the pelican eel. It's not a large animal, but its mouth is much bigger compared to its body. It can swallow prey even larger than itself. In a place where it can sometimes take weeks or months before finding food again, animals can't afford to be picky. When food comes by, they have to eat it right away. In these deep, dark places, the rules of life are really different. It's not about being beautiful or just strong. What's important is survival. But there's one big question that has puzzled scientists for a long time. If there's no sunlight under the sea, where does the energy for this whole ecosystem come from? How do so many creatures survive in a place with almost no resources? The answer actually comes from the surface of the ocean. Every day there are tiny particles that slowly sink down from above. This includes dead plankton, tiny remains of organisms, fish waste, and other organic material. Scientists call this marine snow. It's like a slow rain of tiny food particles from the surface of the sea. But according to studies, most of these are already eaten by other animals before they even reach the very bottom. That's why there's really only a small amount of food left for the creatures in the deep. But sometimes a bigger blessing arrives. And that's when the bottom of the sea turns into a feast. When a large whale dies and sinks to the seafloor, it becomes a huge source of food for deep sea creatures. This is a whale fall. Marine researchers say a dead whale's body can sustain many organisms for a long time. Scavengers like sharks and large mara arrive first. For a very long time, the first to arrive are scavengers like sharks and large fish. Afterwards, crabs, worms, and other small creatures that can eat the remaining flesh will follow. And when almost nothing but bones is left, there are still unique organisms that can actually eat the whale's skeleton itself. Almost nothing goes to waste under the sea. In a place where it's extremely hard to survive, every piece of energy is important. And because of this, scientists are even more convinced that even in the darkest and most dangerous parts of the Earth, life still finds a way to continue. Despite this, the world beneath the Mariana Trench goes even deeper than most people think. Beyond the ordinary seafloor, there is an even more extreme part of the ocean that almost seems like a separate world. This is what scientists call the Hadal zone. Its name comes from the word Hades, which in ancient mythology refers to the underworld or the world of the dead. And that name is very fitting, because in this place, you can hardly find any normal life compared to what you see on the surface of the earth. It's extremely dark, extremely cold, and the pressure is incredibly strong. But even with such harsh conditions, there are still creatures that live here. One of the most unique discoveries by scientists is the Mariana snailfish. According to studies by deep sea researchers and National Geographic, this is the deepest living fish discovered on Earth. When you see it, it doesn't look like a normal fish. Its color is pale and its body is almost like jelly. Its bones are also not as hard as those of ordinary fish. Instead, most of its body is flexible and soft so it can withstand the extreme pressure under the sea. To put it simply, if you put a normal animal or person at that depth, their body could be crushed immediately because of the intense pressure. But the snailfish is different. It has evolved to survive there. It's like its whole body was really made for the deep sea, and it's not the only strange creature in that place. There are also organisms called cenophiophores. Even though they just look like simple mud or rocks, they're actually alive. What's even more surprising is that they're just single-celled organisms. That means their whole body is made up of just one cell. But despite this, they can grow almost as big as a human fist. According to marine scientists, it's still a big mystery to them how these organisms are able to withstand the extreme pressure at the bottom of the trench. Because under normal circumstances, extreme pressure can destroy the structure of ordinary cells. But at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, it seems like different rules of life apply. There are also microbes in the depths that don't rely on sunlight to survive. Instead, they feed on chemicals that come directly from inside the earth. This is one of the most important discoveries in deep-sea science, because it shows that it's actually possible for organisms to survive even without sunlight. On the surface of the earth, most life depends on the sun. Plants use sunlight to make energy. After that, they are eaten by other animals, and the cycle of life continues. But in the depths of the trench, a different system is at work. Here, there are organisms that use chemicals from beneath the earth as their source of energy. It's as if our own planet is feeding them. And because of this, scientists became more interested in the possibility of life on other planets or moons in the solar system. Because if life can survive in this kind of environment here on Earth, it might also be possible in places without sunlight, but with underground oceans or chemical activity. But as people study the Mariana Trench more deeply, there is another thing that is starting to change. It is slowly becoming the center of global competition in the deep sea. Before, science and exploration were the main reasons why countries wanted to study the Mariana Trench. But now, the discussion is much bigger. This now includes resources, technology, military strategy, and control of the deep sea. For many decades after the historic dive of the Trieste in 1960, only a few have returned to the very bottom of the trench, because the mission is extremely expensive and dangerous. Some parts of the deep ocean are said to be even harder to reach than the moon, but the world's attention started to return here in 2012, when filmmaker James Cameron conducted a solo deep-sea mission. According to reports from the BBC and National Geographic, he successfully reached Challenger Deep using a specially designed submersible. After this, interest in deep-sea exploration increased again. Following him was the explorer Victor Vescovo, who also conducted many dives in the Mariana Trench, starting in 2019. But while other missions were funded by private explorers, China is taking a different direction. In 2020, according to official Chinese reports and international coverage, the Chinese submersible Fenduji reached the Mariana Trench. This is an advanced deep-sea vehicle built for intense exploration missions. But China's goal isn't just a simple visit. According to analysts, they are more focused on establishing a long-term presence in the deep sea. Instead of just one big mission, they are using more autonomous underwater vehicles, or AUVs. These are robots that can work underwater for a long time even without people inside. They can make maps of the seafloor, analyze sediments, and collect a huge amount of information about the ocean floor. And because they are cheaper compared to traditional manned missions, they can be used more often and in greater numbers. Because of this, the deep sea is gradually becoming a new strategic frontier. It's no longer just about discovering strange animals. Instead, it is also starting to become a battle for data, resources, technology, and influence in the deepest parts of the planet. Even so, as more countries send robots and submarines into the depths of the ocean, it's now clearer that science isn't the only reason why interest in the Mariana Trench and deep-sea exploration is growing. A lot is at stake here, and one of the most important reasons is resources. Beneath the vast areas of the deep ocean, there are strange rocks scattered across the seafloor. They don't look special at first glance because they just look like ordinary small rocks or potatoes lying on the ocean floor. But according to reports from Reuters, BBC, and the International Seabed Authority, These rocks contain valuable metals such as nickel, cobalt, and manganese, and they are extremely important in the modern world. These metals are used in making batteries for electric vehicles, smartphones, wind turbines, and other technology needed for renewable energy. To put it simply, as the world shifts more towards green energy and electric technology, the demand for these metals also increases. That's why, for some countries and big companies, the ocean floor seems like a new mine of the future. But there's a big problem. Scientists are still not sure what the effects of deep-sea mining will be. According to marine researchers and environmental groups, deep-sea ecosystems take a very long time to form. So when a part of the sea floor is damaged because of mining, it may take a very long time before it can recover. And because there is still so much we don't know about life under the sea, there are concerns that organisms which science hasn't even fully discovered yet might be destroyed right away. But are resources really the only reason why the deep sea is important? No. There's another, more sensitive and more dangerous issue: communication and the global internet system. Most people think that the internet comes from satellites in space. But according to international telecommunications experts, more than 90% of international internet traffic worldwide passes through undersea data cables. These are the long fiber optic cables laid under the ocean. It's like a giant network of cables connecting different countries. Online banking, video calls, social media, international business transactions, military communication, and almost all modern digital activities pass through here. To put it simply, if these important cables are cut, the internet and communication of many countries could be affected. And this is where the new concern of government and military analysts comes in. Because the same technology used to explore the deep sea can also be used to locate, monitor, or destroy undersea cables. For example, autonomous underwater vehicles or deep-sea robots can map the seafloor in great detail, but in the wrong situation, they can also be used to locate where the critical communication lines are under the sea. Because of this, some countries are starting to see the deep sea as a new strategic battleground. This isn't like a normal war with tanks or fighter jets that you see on the surface. It's quieter, more hidden, and much harder to defend. Because the ocean is so vast and it's extremely difficult to monitor what's underneath it. According to analysts and security experts, this is the reason why many countries are now expanding their deep sea technology programs. Not just for science, but also for long-term economic and strategic advantage. But until now, there are still many legal questions about this, because a large part of the deep ocean is not owned by just one country. According to international maritime agreements and United Nations discussions, some parts of the high seas are considered shared by the whole world. But even though there are existing rules, there are still many gray areas when it comes to mining, exploration, and the use of deep-sea technology. And while the progress of international agreements is slow, countries continue to deploy their equipment under the sea. In other words, while the world is still debating the rules, countries with more advanced technology are slowly gaining control and information. So now, the Mariana Trench is no longer just a simple deep part of the ocean. It has become a symbol of the challenges of the modern world. A place that is important for science, resources, environment, technology, and global security. On one hand, it can help us understand the origins of life and the secrets of our planet. But on the other hand, it can also become a center of competition for power and control in the future. And as more countries descend into the depths of the sea, one big question remains. Will the world be able to protect one of the last truly unexplored places on Earth? Or will it also end up in an intense scramble for resources and strategic dominance? For now, there is still no clear answer, because the battle for the depths of the ocean is just beginning.